So, Lenny.
Yes.
Welcome back to the compound.
Free, thank you.
So, I go back in time a little bit because you went to the compound in the Bronx, which was...
That's correct.
The first one in New York. And now you have been to the Red Hook compound.
It's like the bookends.
It's pretty much the bookends. I just don't want it to end.
No, well, you got to just extend this to the bonus.
To the bonus round. But when you being a creative and just who you are in the art space, when you walk in here, what do you think and what do you feel?
Just, well, initially New York, right? Because the location, this type of building, shout out to 100-year-old buildings. The authenticity, kind of reeks, but then you understand your aesthetic and the kind of people you've surrounded yourself with, not just here, but your arrival here, given the history of the original spot.
In the Bronx, yep.
And what you've built to arrive, right, and kind of transplant here. But I felt like you needed a bigger space then.
Than the Bronx,
right?
Yep.
And now obviously you can stretch your legs a little bit.
Totally.
But no, it's amazing. I mean, this is the kind of space like you kind of might dream about, I mean, even me, I'm fortunate the last, 5 to 10 years, got myself into a more decent studio environment. But I think it's important, but this is impressive, man, really. I love it here because it's like you're so far away.
But reachable.
But very reachable, yeah.
Thank you, man. No, your space is amazing, too. One of my favorite pictures of us is on your roof.
Yes.
Looking. You know what's funny? We took that picture on your roof before I came here.
Right. You were just a visitor at the spot.
At the studio.
And as it turned out, you found this spot, right? Which is incredible. Well, so, I mean, it could say something to the, my magnetism. No, it's more like this is a dope community on the come up, right? As a result of Sandy, more than a decade ago. And spaces are here. The location's really amazing.
Yep.
I'm sure you find a lot of, not tranquility, but, there's not like a community out here.
It's like a creative tranquility, though.
It is. But, like, you're not overrun unless it's folks, coming for events or beers and stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, thank you for coming, man. That's always the first question. And your magnetism, I did find a Defender arcade game.
Oh, well, man.
So now you remember that day, too.
Yeah, I do. So, yeah, shout out to Williams and Defender, and I'm a Robotron guy. I'm a Defender 1.
Defender 1 guy.
2, yeah. I mean, I love them all, but that's remarkable. Miss Pac-Man, shout out.
Tron's in the corner. Shouts out to...
all right, I want to show my wife Tron, because I spoke about that.
But you know who that Tron's from, and I got to shout him out. It's our
Stash?
brother, Stash.
Yes.
So Stash called me and said, dude, I'm getting rid of some things.
Yeah, I got this Tron machine. Still works.
You're worthy.
Yeah, well...
Because you know he didn't want to give it up.
No, nor, I hope, maybe I was on that offer, but... Yeah,
I probably came second.
That's a remarkable game.
Yes.
I mean, it's funny too because I talk about Tron. It's the new ones just dropped, right?
Did you see it yet?
No, I haven't.
Can we go together?
Not hating at all. I'm interested.
I'm a little.
Soundtrack is dope, right?
Soundtrack always dope, but
Yep.
I don't know if I wanted to go to Red Lines, and I know Stash probably heated.
Yeah, right. They switched the colorway.
Yeah, the colorway is over.
What do the gang members think about that?
Wow.
Right? There's a whole other thing.
It's a whole nother
That's
thing
when they
now.
took color and you're talking about appropriation. No, Tron, the original, what is it? It's actually, I think it's...
Is it 30 years?
No,
It's
I
more?
believe it's more. I want to say it's 82 maybe. Not for nothing.
Okay.
I think it's that old.
Wow.
But initially, yeah, I mean, who wasn't blown away? And it's great to see Jeff through his career.
All three of them.
Yeah, but I mean, that in addition to everything else he's done, obviously.
Totally.
But so it's good to see him back as always. But yeah, that initially, because I was a game geek from the beginning, whether it's the stand-up machines like we're talking about, or initially getting into home-operated systems, of the 80s and 90s. But I used to write an article for, Paper Magazine, right? They were around for many years. And they had in the 80s, into the, new millennium, they had articles about whatever. And I used to write for a couple of years about video games for them. So I was really into it, and that interest in video games initially helped me was into computing.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Because you're going in a timeline.
Yeah.
And you're about to give them the jewels. And what's happening is Compound Conversations is basically your journey.
Understood. Yes.
Everybody gets a part of Futura from the last collab, the Nike collab, or the Virgil World, or the Point Man or Uncle. But what I want to finally do is take you on a journey in a short period of time of giving people these highlights through your career.
Sure.
So let's start from the beginning, because you was about to touch something really great that I even want to know, like, where did a lot of this stuff come from with you?
Yes.
So let's start when
70s.
70s.
Yep.
But even how it started with family, like, what was it? Was it mom, dad?
Yeah.
With aunts, uncles in the house? Like, where did it all start for you?
Once you're aware, you grow up, and then I'm an only child, right?
Okay.
So I'm an only child. No aunts or uncles to ever speak of in life. Although later understood my father did have a sister. But the family, it was all sus. So it was just me and my mom and my dad growing up. Life was hard. We were living low, not on welfare, but we were on the lower ends of stuff. And walk-up apartment, no whip, just on the subway all the time going to school. And my mom had me out doing all kinds of things because I was an only child. So scouting, YMCA, CYO, any of these organizations, Boys and, Girls Club, all of these things that you put kids into, mind you, we're going back 50, 60 years, when I'm a kid. I'm going to be 70 next month, so.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you. Yeah,
I heard.
very grateful for that.
When I heard it.
Survival is the art of survival is staying alive, so I'm.
Survival of the fittest, so.
I'm not even fit, but I'm here. But just grew up like a regular kid, and it's not until really, I guess I come up with the graffiti thing, and I joined that army, and that's 70. I'm 15. I'm actually late in the game, but I was busy doing other things. I wasn't trying to be, like a little derelict at sports, girls, whatever. Just a knucklehead kid coming through high school. And I graduated at 16 in 1972.
I was born.
Okay.
That year.
Yeah, well, I actually turned 17 in November. That's one of the advantages of being, old in the year. You're always like a little bit ahead of the game, maybe in school. I skipped a grade. So I was part of that progressive movement. I was actually grateful for my upbringing in that time in the 60s, because it was like ghetto schools trying to help kids through an accelerated program. And, they were doing the right thing. It was actually like we were in the park and, out of the classroom. It was super experimental. I mean, this is some 60s shit. But I was a recipient of that education, and I thought even public was really well done. And I'm grateful for my education. Was always visiting, institutions, really like learning,
So during that, I'm 72, so, I remember Johnny Quest. Who else was on? Space
Shout
Ghost.
out to the Knicks, by the way.
Yeah, totally. They was good when I was.
Yeah.
They was good when
they
I
were
was.
just champions even, right around that time.
My pop was probably a Knicks fan then. He was.
Yeah.
I was born in the Bronx, so yeah, he had to be.
Yes.
So growing up, like you touched on, graffiti came later. That was like when it started. But was there anything young you in the house, like was cartoons piquing the interest? Was it movies? What was sparking that creativeness in you as a kid before the graffiti?
Like crossword puzzles, mostly hanging out. I mean, mostly being a kid. I was just out. I grew up watching cartoons and eating cereal, but then, get my education on, do all my duties. I was more or less like my mom's slave, so I just did all the work and handle my business, handle her business, our business on a more like social level. And just try to come home with good grades. My mom was very strict with me. So as I got older, I was living a double life because I was this kind of goody two-shoes kind of guy. But then as I got older and I met the wrong people, I started wanting to hang out late and,
You had the little people on your shoulders, left and right side.
I had both of those, metaphors with it. Those images were there all the time. But I was more prone to the good side, right? I'm always like a good guy. And even when I got into doing dark things, I was always like, I tried to balance the negativity by, I don't know, being polite or doing acts of kindness or something.
You were like doing bad things, but still say thank you.
Oh, without question. Without question, Like openly being sinister, but acting all polite.
Nice with it.
Yeah, but that's just growing up. That's surviving as a kid also. That was difficult. But I think the graffiti thing, that's what, obviously, it's a bit prophetic. I thought it was that Futura 2000, the name I chose was in 1970. I'm in high school. I didn't graduate yet. But that was going to be the thing that was, going to never live to see that thing, right? Because as a 15-year-old kid, I didn't think I'd lived.
See 2000.
No, I didn't think so. And not for nothing, like we looked at older people differently then. That's why I walk around at my age, I think like, wow, man, like the way I used to think about an older person. Like if I didn't know you, therefore, yes, I gave you the respect just on general purpose, right? But then there was nothing emotional there. And I would default to, yo, what's up, Gramps? Or, you know what I mean? I would just be a knucklehead.
A knucklehead, like, yo.
Right? And without respect, actually. And, I don't know. I think about that young kid sometimes. I'm like, damn, you were very uneducated. No, quite the opposite. You were educated, but you always chose to be more like a knucklehead, right? And so it's ironic that through my life, I'm always trying to recorrect, right? But yeah, all of that stupidity and the way I used to be as a kid. I think I was always just fighting for my own space, yeah. Right? Because it's tough. You look at the world today, everything that's happening, it's not a carbon copy, but man, it's a facsimile of stuff I've already seen in my own life, whether it's the racial tension, all of this division. It ain't new.
Yeah.
And I see it all, I'm like, wow, it's so unfortunate, because I felt along the way we were making positive moves,
Strides, yeah.
right? So in the greater picture, man, I can't help there. But in my own life and my own world, I certainly can, and I try to instill, whether through my actual acts, or my children, how I raise my kids, all those things are really more meaningful to me. My son just turned 41 yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, damn. Yeah. And I was saying to him, and his sister, family, we all talk about it. Like, yeah, it's your birthday, and God bless you, and happy birthday. But the birth of my son in '84, that was like the biggest moment in my life. Like having this kid, that moment, that leap of faith,
everything.
whatever, fucking changes everything, right? So, in a way, we're celebrating a little bit with him, and just the accomplishment level, and then. Yeah, I can look at the timeline, since that day in Bellevue Hospital in Manhattan and be like, wow, that's just such a blessing. Yeah.
So
as Busta Rhymes says a lot.
Yeah, Busta Rhymes.
I love that though. But it is.
Young king is a blessing.
Yeah. Hey man, young king, young prince, whatever, pick your geography.
Pick your title.
Yeah.
So let's go back to graffiti, right? So I was, like I said, born in New York, but I went to Philly. So there was a lot of graffiti in Philadelphia, not like New York,
Shout out to Cornbread, though.
Shout out to Cornbread.
Let's give Cornbread his.
He deserves his.
We don't want him calling up.
Yeah, we don't want that. Sorry, Mr. So, like, the trolleys was never really tagged up. Like,
Yep.
Trains was a little bit, but then.
Well, you guys had SEPTA.
Yeah.
We went down there just to check it out.
Did y'all ever think about going to bomb trolleys in Philly?
Well, trolleys we would have not considered, right? That's like tagging a bus. But SEPTA, even though SEPTA is still a road, it's not subterranean, but that's more our cup of tea, if you will.
Yeah, SEPTA
right?
had the train.
Yeah.
So it was funny because SEPTA had an L. They had an L, which was the train.
Right.
But then the trolleys, and like because I got a chance to go back and forth between New York and Philly, and I seen the trains, and I seen the walls, and I seen the billboards, but when I went to Philly, I was like, it's not, it wasn't down there. So I remember the first time I seen a train, I was like, wow. So the reason I brought this up was like, when the first time you seen graffiti, what was that spark for you to be like, okay, I need to do? Because you was probably doing sketches in your books, and it was like, okay, it's time to go out to the world and do it.
Yeah, I mean, what's been proven out, Seth, is that 1972 and 1973 are really the breakout years in New York City for the culture and that particular graffiti movement, if you will, because those are the years that it was being documented. And as a result of the work that was up and running in 72, 73, 71, if you will, this work over a 2-3 year period that was the foundation for it all was being documented over a 2-year period, only to then be published in 1974 in the first publication, The Faith of Graffiti.
Wow.
All of this is happening as I'm there. Now, I'm a participant, but I'm not really part of the graffiti elite, which is this group called the UGA, and they were heavily featured in that first book called The Faith of Graffiti. But just to say that attention, there was an exhibition of graffiti paintings in Soho at the Razor Gallery. This is all 1973.
Wow.
So 73 locally was a breakout year for the individuals involved who were being exhibited and part of this community of like, talk about like getting up, like they were performing at the Lincoln Center while the dancers were doing a performance. They were painting the backdrop. Like graffiti was really having its moment, but it was too much too soon, like everything is in life, right? It's just the timing is a little bit off. And for me personally, well, that was my inspiration into being a writer, because I could see whether it was Phase 2 or Stay High or Snake or Coco or Miko or Stitch or, or Carmen or Barbara, any of the writers from that original community and core, well, they were more famous than
Singers,
Al Pacino and whatever, or so-and-so, or Clint Eastwood and Steve McQueen. Like these were real life heroes, and they were being written about in like New York Magazine. So it was something becoming like a urban, not just urban legends, but like, wow, this whole movement has some legs.
And to it,
we're making our mark on society, against Mr. Koch's demand. But just to say that whole thing was really inspirational, and I wanted to be part of it. At the same time, personally, I was searching for my own identity as an individual. And this seemed like a perfect community and chalkboard for me to join and add my little signature. And as it turns out, that very act of joining this community and becoming a graffiti writer is the very essence of self-promotion. Graffiti writing is the foundation of self-promotion,
Totally.
right? Like, we're really good at it. And we were doing it for free. And a lot of my best work, obviously, my only work, if you will, that existed on trains, I won't count the walls and whatever I scrawled on. But the paintings I did, well, that was all for free. That was all. That was like an ego snack for me, just like subway surfing, just like all the things we did. But it was also at the moment when the whole thing, and I'm talking about my arrival at the late 70s into what would become the 80s, and really when the door got knocked over or kicked in with the arrival of Herring and Basquiat and everyone, right? But the 70s proved to be quite important, obviously, for New York City graffiti. For me in particular, my arrival, my departure in 74, I was in the Navy for 4 years.
We're going to pick up end of late 70s.
Coming out of the military.
Coming out of the military, Jay-Z quote, allow me to reintroduce myself.
Okay.
So now graffiti's at a great all-time high now.
Man.
It's buzzing. And
unbelievable progression of just, when I left, it was, very, I don't want to say amateur hour. There were things being done in the, I left the Navy in 1974. I came back in 1978. Even when I came back in 78, I I couldn't adapt to New York yet.
Okay.
And I went to, I was living in Savannah, Georgia for about 10 months.
Okay. Wow.
Because I feel, it was just too much of a shock to come out of that military system. And
Go right back to New York.
it was very difficult.
Yep.
I tried. I had a whip. I had my Cutlass Supreme. 76 Cutlass. This is 1978. Yeah, I had a whip. I mean, I was 22 years old. Had a little money in a shoebox nobody knew about. I was bumming with people.
You know what's so, not to cut you, what's so crazy you said that 2021, I lived in Mexico during the pandemic for a year and a half. I came back to the Bronx. I was in a shock of going from a different place to New York. It's New York is, you got to gradually get back into the flow of New York.
Yeah.
Like I came back and I'll never forget, because I went back to the Bronx, and that's what made me move. I was like, I can't do this
Right,
anymore.
I just can't do it.
This the way I did it before.
Yes, understood.
And I was like, you know what? Let me try this Red Hook area.
Wow.
Because I had to adjust. But coming back from I think you come back, if you go down south or you go anywhere and you come back to New York, it is a different switch that goes on.
Well, it's a culture shock. I mean, for me, it was beyond culture. It's not like coming out of jail, but, coming out of 4 years in the military, you're coming out of this system where everything is kind of spoken for and provided. And now I'm back on my own, solo dolo. Yet I was on a mission to use all my education now that I had just gotten
from
the military. And how could I apply that now out here in a society that I thought worked about half as hard? Right? That was my initial advantage, I thought. I was like, I'm young, I'm trained the fuck up, I'm motivated. How can I apply that energy and, whatever my tactical plan, whatever I thought I had, how can I apply that to what we're doing right now? And that's when the essay, myself, Mark Edmonds, Ali, rest in peace, Eric Hayes, we reformed up SA, the soul artist, and we were running it out of we had I don't want to call it a squat, but we were, in a vacant storefront. And we occupied that for more than a year, and that was our HQ.
Okay.
And, everything analog, stealing electricity from neighboring properties, all of the kind of ghetto, fabulous stuff we could pull off. Going around, grabbing furniture off the street that was being tossed and,
Same thing I did in here.
Yeah, like just, but having the savvy to be like, no, they dump heavy objects on Wednesday, get Tony with the pickup truck. We go to the Upper East Side.
Totally.
Like know where to shop kind of thing, but having no loot.
But you made it work.
We totally made that shit work. And it was like it was a spot. It was the initial idea beyond that childhood, whatever, like, gotta hang out in somebody's pop's basement thingy,
You had the first compound, basically.
Well, we were always trying. And like I said, I'm coming out of the military, so I had no problem with that concept. Like, let's take this spot, we'll turn it into something. Exactly. So I think that was my motivation. And then, I haven't done anything yet really on the subway. Right.
Wow.
I'm an old graffiti writer from the early 70s.
So, but when you came back, Futura 2000 was still the name?
Yeah, still my name.
I got you.
And it's only 79.
Yeah.
Right? It's still 21 years
still
away.
have time.
I'm not gonna make it. I'm good. So yeah, I was embracing it, and then within a year, 6 months, before 80 arrived, we met Dondi, we met Zeph. We met, we met Kel, Mayor. We met everyone. And the thing is, it was like, the game of telephone, and New York City at that moment, and everything is like, the beat of the drum, how it travels through the jungle. Information moves very quickly.
Totally.
And, once the word gets out on something, it's remarkable in the world we live in today where we're so dependent on this thing to get us from point A to point B, yet back then, we could orchestrate all of this rendezvous and get together without nothing. Nobody's even taking notes.
We didn't even have home phones.
Fuck it, I got you.
Yeah.
So the way the earth was moving then was really cool, and the energy of this graffiti community was like super duper hot. and Freddie comes in, and then here comes Keith Haring, and Basquiat's up there, and we had everybody up at this
Kenny
initial.
Scharf and Kenny.
Oh, Kenny, everyone, of course. Kenny was even more, not just supportive, but like involved in a sense. Once we formed up the Fun Gallery, later after the 80s arrived, we started showing in the East Village, and that was the art period initially, but. It's not until Freddie does the soup cans
Okay. Yep.
with Lee, Warhol's Campbell's soup cans
Yep.
on Subway. And that was his message to the public at large that we're not just this kind of
Flashback.
ignorant, kind of, uneducated community. Like we
know
do
what we're
know
doing.
about art.
Yeah, we know what we're doing.
And we're making references to kind of speak to that. And that's when I came out of my own box and was like, okay, I have to do something epic. I have to paint a train, on the scale in which is the gold standard in 1980 of trains, which is this whole subway car, a la Lee, a la Dondi, a la Scene, a la Blade, I mean, a la the masters of the moment. And I had this idea to just eliminate the letters and just do this colored abstracted thing. And for me, it was more about the dimension of this subway car, the epicness of that scale, and the coverage, in fact, was very important to complete it and to have it roll. And that's my finest moment in that era.
It was like the discovery point.
Well, it was my I've said before, it's kind of like my love letter to the New York City graffiti, because I was already involved with the SA. We're trying to form up this community, this talk of galleries in the Bronx, and we had higher expectations or aspirations than just painting trains. I mean, the next generation was still there, and the diehards were going to keep painting, but some of us, certainly me, by 1980, I'm 25. I'm 25 when I painted that train. I mean, to me, almost technically, dude, you're 10 years older than the average kid that's doing that.
Yeah.
There's no place for you there, actually. Like, technically, you shouldn't be there, right? And by all, I mean, based on my history, it's like, wait, you were in the military, like,
now you're coming home back to paint.
Like, honorably discharged, whatever. You had that whole experience, like, and now what? You're painting trains?
Yeah.
There was a kind of a thing, it didn't make sense. And yes, that was my departure, but at least I left with this substantial, kind of presentation. And that got documented by Martha Cooper. And her documentation, because she was Dondi's personal photographer.
Yeah.
She photographed everything, but Dondi had a good relationship with Martha, and thus I got a relationship with her. And, we've been boys, I mean, Martha's in her 80s. I love her to death. I mean, we were almost like married at the hip, because her photo
helped show your work.
Put me in this moment where, I'm given credit, not just with the work. I mean, yeah, I did it. I raised my hand and give me a Bible. I'll swear to it. But it's remarkable because it's an incredible photograph. And it's like a thing I say, like, well, what if that photo doesn't exist? What am I, bragging about something that no one can see? And I'm not even bragging about something that someone can see, but it's there.
It's documented.
It's documented. You can have an opinion about it. So to me, it's just a miracle again. It's another miracle in my life, and I've had many, where in this moment of departing from one thing and entering, let's say, the art world or the art space, absent of being a vandal and a graffiti writer, I leave this wonderful legacy behind, and I have proof of life. And speaking of proof of life, we'll just cut back to go forward. The 1972-73 period I talked about, when graffiti was documented, most famously by a guy named John Nahr. The Faith of Graffiti archive is all John Nahr's photographs and all the tags that exist. And I was gutted in 1974 when the book came out, because I'm not in it. My name's not in it.
Wow.
My tag's not in it. I didn't make the cut. And people live with it. But everyone who made the cut made history. 2 years ago, last year, Gordon Matta Clark's archive was revealed. 20,000 photographs that sat dormant for about 50 years. And one of his pictures from 1972 or 73 did have my tag.
Yeah, you're working it.
And I have been published now by Gordon, through Gordon, rest in peace, Gordon, through his incredible image of my tag from either 72, 73, pick 'em. Well, yeah, I missed the boat with that other production and lived my whole life thinking, oh, wow, yeah.
I missed it.
I missed it.
But you really did.
But in fact, I really didn't, because this gentleman's work proves, no, homie.
I was there.
I was there. So for me, it's a beautiful, talk about bookends, right?
Yep.
Like that, then and now. And living my life prior to the knowledge of his photograph, thinking, well, yeah, you know, I was there. I'm grateful. You know, I looked through that shit with like Sherlock Holmes with a magnifying glass. I never found my name. Mm-hmm. But I accepted also, like, yeah, I was a toy. I was just another kid scribbling. I was 15. You know what I'm saying? So whether I make it or I don't, well, actually 16, 17, but regardless, you know, I'm too young to be, you know, a superstar, you know. And I
was young enough to be noticed.
Well, I mean, I did get photographed, right? So in the end, and talking about Martha's photograph, how amazing it is, in all honesty, Gordon's photograph is also very important to me, because he pulled me back to that time in which, you know, I was a child, and Futura 2000, the identity was born.
The world of Futura 2000. The only person when I was young that made me think like this was Prince with the record 1999. And I was like, wow. I said, this guy is doing art with 2000, and this guy's doing a record with 1999. So when I heard Futura, I was like, of course, me, super Star Wars head, super George Lucas head. So I was like, you can't have the name Futura if you're not going to be out of space somewhere. And then the circles came, and this uncle came, and, you know, what is it, Nosferatu? How do you pronounce his name?
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu came, and even I think that might have been one of my first toys I got from you, which is, like we talked about, maybe 90s.
Late 90, 97, 98, I believe.
Yeah. When you got the name, when did the inkling go off, like, okay, now I got to create this world? Because you were one that made abstract beautiful. You're like, but it was space with colors, but different. Like,
yeah.
When did the world of Futura 2000 come to you as an artist?
I mean, in the 80s, right? We were right there, I think, talking about my goodbye to the movement underground. So the 80s is a chance for me to flush out that abstracted idea about abandoning what we were all, well, not we, because once again, you know, see, I was fortunate that, you know, I was away, I came back, you know, it's a great timing play where I'm just back in the right moment, you know, I hook up with Dondi, Zeph, get to do my painting on the subway, and a few others that I tried to do, because, you know, like anything, you do one, you want to do another, and I got chased on some, I tried to do characters on another, not just the abstraction. But once I got into a studio and started painting in the early 80s, I got into what I felt was going to be my style, which had to be, as you said, you know, sci-fi, futuristic. Mm-hmm. It just seemed obvious, right? And everyone else was doing their own thing. Basquiat, Keith, all the graffiti community, Lee, Crash Days, Pink. Everyone was painting in their own fashion, but yet I was sort of out on my own island doing these compositions, color. The atomic element arrives as part of my youth, growing up, with the concept of a bomb shelter in the Cold War, and that element, you know, appears as an element on a poster for a fallout shelter, the atomic symbolism. So for me, that was always in my head and as a backdrop, you know, latent there as a child, if you will. In the modern era now, I'm bringing it out because, for one, I can do circles quite well. So if you can do a circle, this is with spray paint, if you will. If you can do circle, you could probably, you know, handle an oval. And I just worked it out. And then I realized that spray painting is a bit of a action painting kind of style. You know, you're moving around with the can and doing your thing. And then I thought, wow, the atomic thing, it's like the energy. right? It's an energy.
Yep.
Maybe it's my energy. Maybe it's me, and maybe it's within me, and all this metaphorical, hey, it's within me. And more recently, I did a point man character. It was, a couple feet high, that was transparent, that had a nucleus lit up atomic ring inside of him. So what I was thinking 30, 40 years later becomes an actual product flushed out through design and, fabrication. But it's interesting that, all those themes and motifs that I have in my work, obviously the atoms, Point Man and other characters from his universe or his world, but the Point Man character also comes from film, as did my identity from Kubrick's 2001. Think Geiger, think Alien, think the
Ultraman.
Yeah, I mean, all of that stuff was there. You asked me initially about my influences as a kid, and you would have been TV. I'm a TV and film kid, but I'm a sci-fi kid. But I love Blade Runner. I mean, I just love all these fantasy adventures. I might not be an Avatar guy per se, but I'm definitely
A sci-fi guy.
A sci-fi guy, and it's not like I'm against Cameron. Cameron's amazing.
Yep.
But the Avatar thing, that's maybe not my cup of tea, but please give me more, Wookiees and Jedi or something.
Jedi. I mean, of course, that's me all day. So now let's go into, because now we got the identity, we got the world.
Yeah.
I always ask this question. It's like, you have accolades for yourself, and but when did it turn into a business for you? Like, you're seeing the train, and you're seeing your peers growing, and you're like, okay, it's one thing when you start making money by just doing art, but because people are asking you for, clothing and paint on this and paint on that, and you're starting to make money. But when did that world turn and be like, oh wait, this is a business now?
Well, I mean, that idea of going commercial in a sense of, selling something, marketing a product and selling it, that was even good. Let's go back to Keith Haring with the Pop Shop. Like, this idea that an artist could create a line of products, what have you, a brand, essentially, right? Because, back to tagging up and us all having our tags and identities, like we didn't realize it. I didn't realize it. I mean, when I started writing graffiti, what existed prior to our arrival? Advertising, right? So brands are already out there selling to the public in these spaces that Keith Haring cleverly appropriated, the blank spaces that advertising would go. But just to say this thing of becoming a brand, it's a bit like, wow, I didn't really see that coming. I didn't see where my signature, my tag, if you will, would become, the brand.
Yep.
But I mean, I look at Stussy in this industry of streetwear and that kind of a world, and essentially, I mean, that's his signature, that's his tag. And it became one of the most recognizable brands. And it's coming from someone's hand. See, that's the other thing. It's not like a text or a font or some typeface that everyone's, oh, hey, that's Helvetica. That's, no. Yeah. It's dude's handwriting. Yeah. So there's some emotion there. And I think that still translates for me, even in my latest, collaboration with a brand like, Hot Wheels. See my tag on the side of a Hot Wheels car? It's pretty dope. I mean, I could have never seen that coming.
It's funny. When I interviewed Eric, I said, y'all two are like the human fonts. When I always told him, I looked at Beastie Boy album covers, I was like, who's writing on these albums? And to see your tag on so many things, and then it goes the Futura tag, and then it was the 2000 tag, and then sometimes it's the FL tag, and it was like abbreviations. And when fonts, because remember, we didn't grow up, we didn't know what fonts were.
No, we didn't. And Futura, I knew it as a car. I didn't know anything about type. I didn't know Paul Renner, designed that font in 1930 or whatever, the case may be. I wasn't educated like that. I mean, and I went to a high school briefly about printing, the printing industry. So I was around typefaces, but I didn't know about Futura. So, no, that was another influence for me. But you're right. You know, I laugh with Eric and, you know, all of us, whether it's, you know, a Jose Parla, if you will. You know, someone, you know, even Lee Quinones, Christ, they, like all of us. I mean, we all have a hand style, right? And there's something about that. And then I joke and I want to antiquate our lives and think like, yeah, back in that old society, we would have been the village scribes. We would have been the people like etching things and creating signage.
You would have been the guys with the stone.
Like, you know, Peter Pan, you know, like we would have just been like doing dope, you know, like, kind of lettering for people.
I don't know what the caveman was, whatever that guy was called that would have the...
Well, I mean, not just, you know, yeah, I mean, you're a Mason, but, you know, the people that actually etched and carved out shit, you know, the original hieroglyphics, you know, as they appeared. But one thing I was going to say about hand styles and stuff, you were talking about being in Philly, and we said, shout out to Cornbread. But Philly did have a distinctive style, like there was a style out of Philly.
Wow.
The way they did like T's and A, like, it wasn't a serif, but there was something that Philly did to the letters.
I remember it was this S that had a point and it was dots and you connected up top and you...
Philly, I must credit with, you know, all of my, you know, ignorance to whatever, any of it. Philly, no doubt, as also we must recognize in our culture, Cali. The same way the Cholo, if you will, for lack of a real definition to that style, like take someone like a Chaz, Boriquez. That whole Mexican, you know, style that exists, that's got a kind of thing. And then you look around the world, and Brazil has it, right? I mean, there's something about and we're all you know, I'm deriving this now from talking about hands, right? And not something, you know, printed or, you know, available to choose from. You know, this is like people's hands. But yeah, I think it's cool that, and once again, I go back to Stussy.
Yep.
You know, Stussy was doing that, you know, before we arrived.
Totally.
And now we're all getting in on it, you know. And
to this day.
And I just saw Sean recently. You mentioned Virgil. I was in Paris last week for Virgil's thingy and got a chance to see Sean. And, you know, he's like, of course, he's a godfather for me even. Yeah, I mean, in 90-something, when we were trying to do teas, we're like, yo, well, let's look west to Sean. Sean's killing it, right?
Yeah. So let's talk. You touched on Virgil and, like, you know, doing a dunk so long ago with Nike, now coming back all the way to Off-White, to Hot Wheels. How, like, your brand has been protected, like, you know, from the art, you as a person, your team. You know, it's a very thin line between doing brand work, doing art that is at a respectable value price-wise, you know. I mean, people don't understand, you might want to sell a painting for $100,000, but you got a T-shirt out there that kind of can be similar but not the same. Then you have a sculpture out there that can go for ridiculous amounts of money, but then you have a Hot Wheels. But you never catch any... You make sure your brand is positioned right. And how have you done that all these years for you to have that balance?
Yeah. I mean, you know, if you look at it that way, you're right. I mean, I have had this range of, I don't want to break it down to price points, but yeah, of course, you know, life's about that. And servicing a public is, you know, just being aware of all of them, everyone, right? And yeah, I mean, I'm in a different position. You know, it's all fluid, right? You know, I'm moving through it now, trying to navigate it the best I can. You know, I'm more focused. I mean, you know, to be quite honest, Free, you know, the art world, the artwork is my most important you know, asset and what I hope to create, right? The art itself.
The art.
The second tertiary, you know, whatever, oh, let's make something from that. Oh, we can make a poster, or we can make a screen print, whatever. You know, all those things are secondary elements to the plan.
After the art.
But, yeah, I mean, the brand is up, you know, Futura Laboratories is up and running right now. You know, grateful with brand partners as they arrive. like to build long-term relationships. It got to a point a few years ago, prior even to the pandemic, where I thought like, man, this is getting out of control. There's too many things going on. It might dilute to, the power of what I'm trying to do. So I'm juggling all those things. Mm-hmm. But I think it's the people around me, as you mentioned before, the team, the structure of what I'm doing now. And, it's not about like chasing checks or, trying to get paid. Could care less. It's more like, no, I just want to finally work with Hot Wheels or something, right? Yep. And it's funny too, because my God, I went in Munich and painted a BMW. I did a BMW.
Yeah.
So that was already like, come on, that's exceeded all my dreams of wanting to paint a car for them to be in their prestigious BMW collection historically, with the Warhols and the Rauschenberg car and, everyone who's contributed. Maybe Koons is in there, like everyone's painted. Yep. So that led to that happening, and finally, and I was like, wow, that's crazy how I was able to paint a real car.
And now you're painting little
and
cars.
But I didn't even paint the car, right? It's a repro of a design I submitted. So, it's not the same, and I have to keep it all in the
perspective.
Yeah, some level of focus. I can't just run around going like, hey, great product, great everything. There's no negativity at all here. It's just simply like, yeah, I'm just doing all these different things. It's weird that, it's almost like it was backward. I would have thought painting or getting a Hot Wheels might have led to a bigger, I thought it would have scaled up.
Well, what's funny? Sometimes you work with, and it's even for me, man, working with some of the brands I always wanted to work with. And after I worked with them, I was like, you know what? This wasn't for the check. It wasn't even for nobody.
Yeah.
It was just for me. And
well, I'm all about experiences, right? I want to experience things. I want to have, even at my age, I want to have adventures. I want to enjoy new terrain and geography and I'm all in, because I can still bring that kind of energy and even if it's things aren't great or whatever, you try to keep yourself surrounded by the right people, no doubt. But I'm really good at like not faking it, but man, I can false motivate. I know how to just get it going, right? Despite whatever. Like, damn, things just aren't there right now. I'll just self-generate.
Self-generate.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, I have two more and then we're over.
We're in closing?
We're in closing.
Okay.
One is because I think the timing of me being a fan, I always feel like I want to still always be fans of the work of my friends and the timing of like Virgil leaving us and transitioning on. You were one of the last people to work with him. And your shoe came around the time, and he gets looked at as fashion, and a lot of people to me didn't look at him as an artist, right? And like it was something I seen not too long ago, like how many album covers he designed, how many artists he worked with in fashion, and then when I seen him come together with you, I was like, this makes all the sense in the world that it happened, and I just wanted you to speak on it. Working with him as an artist, besides just a fashion person.
Yeah, so Virgil, as the artist, it makes me think also about your compound conversations, right? Like, wow. That's what we were trying to do at one point at his show at the, I guess it's the MCA in Chicago. It was a exhibition,
so, yep.
Bit like a retrospective of a lot of his architectural pieces, pieces in general, but Virgil more as an artist, right? Not the
fashion
off-white guy or
Pyrex guy.
Subsequent Louis V, chief creative. But yeah, I'm so grateful to Virg because as I was trying to say before in the chat is that, I've been fortunate, did my graffiti thing, did my art thing in the 90s, got involved with computing and streetwear and the internet, Century arrives, kind of pushing the next generation now and somewhat of a leader. Right around the time, that Virgil would have been arriving. I think what was kind from Virgil's point of view, I feel, is how he acknowledged me as someone that he looked at coming up. Now, I'm not in that high fashion realm. I'm a bit more connected to the street, but whether it's Chicago, LA, Atlanta, New York, wherever, I think you could appreciate the energy and whatever my contributions were. We had touched base in the 90s when I was doing my website. It was just moments, where we had connected, and ultimately he was super kind with me, and we did some projects together, not just for Off, but for LV. He did a special cover of my Rizzoli book that I had released that was only available in 700 or more copies. Just so kind and thoughtful, and for someone as busy as he was, yeah, you're right. I guess people didn't appreciate him as the artist. They just kind of see you as a businessman or someone that's, got your hands, a bit of a puppet master or something. But I don't believe so. I think he was not just kind, but, he was brilliant, and I respect his genius on the level of how, beyond, inclusion, just getting people in the mix. Even those that you might have thought like, oh, wow, like...
Where did this come from?
Or, you're the best inside man I've ever seen as far as an individual who can get within a system and then somehow from within implement change and find a new direction. That's really an important thing to do. It's seemingly difficult in today's, that door is seemingly closing.
That's a fact.
But, I'll always, I got tricks for a closing door. I'll look around and I'll see something and I'll just wedge it. You know what I mean? It'll just, like back in the day, it used to just be like, I don't know, like...
Just let me get my foot in there.
Yeah, but like a card, right, with a lock. You can put like a business card where the lock goes. Just
the door will stay open.
Yeah, stay open. That's what I'm saying. You got little tricks, right? And then problem is kids are on their phone right now, and... Yeah, they might be learning a hack like that while on their phone.
But it's not like the real
But
one.
it ain't like the real learning the hack, right? That's what I'm saying. So, in closing, Free, I just wish the next generation, they're obviously there. You got multiple generations we're dealing with right now, on all levels, right? But really, the kids that are going to grow into power can, I don't know, just... got to course correct a little bit the overuse of our devices in some way and get back to hanging with the homies and
doing this
and learning from people's lives and actual lived experiences, right? Because that's the verite, right? It's like the truth of whatever exists in anyone is the life they've lived. And so now when I see old people, I want to be like them. I want to get old with them, right? And where I would have dissed some old time happily.
But now we want to be
them. Now
them.
I'm like, hey, what's up, my guy?
I hope I make it to
my brother, hermano. Just want to get with you. And I've been hanging out. Like I mentioned, Martha and Henry. Shout out to Henry Chalfant. Those friends of mine that are in their 80s. People I know that are in their 90s. That I'm actually talking to and interacting with. It's very inspirational.
It is.
As I said, I'm turning that hard number. It's a speeding ticket in some states, but maybe not Nevada. But I'm going to...
well, remember, the Autobahn is...
the Autobahn's unlimited.
So
You're right. So I need to get it. Well, I've been on that, actually. That was a bucket list thing as a kid. I remember being on that thing and... hitting whatever 3 digits, and being terrified and having to immediately, let me just pull this over to the right lane.
To the slow lane. But I think your life is not a speed limit, and you will live on.
Well, I'm the tortoise, right? Classically in that race, and it's cool though because I feel like I know it's not a marathon, and the destination still. Okay, ultimately. We do know what that is.
Yep.
But But just in terms of, where I'm steering my ship right now, it's just like we're on course. You know what I'm saying? We're not trying to, we're just out here under our own power right now, and that's another thing to be grateful for, right? And, at this moment in my life, it's like, I'm a self-operating, Machine, yeah. And not about debt or anything like that, but I don't know what those things are. I'm not operating at a loss. I'm, wanting to be even more, not philanthropic, but like, hey, what more cool projects can we do? Like, yeah, there's the products that we sell, but there's the products that we sell and we can give that money away as well. You know what I mean? It's not all just like, it used to be, certainly 50 years ago, that shit went right into my pocket, okay? There was no other place for money but in my pocket. Right?
Now we're in a different life.
Yeah, man.
Well, Lenny, thank you, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the friendship,
of course,
communication.
forever. Friendship, see, that's what I'm saying too. Like, yeah, my work, thanks. You could own it and sell it, but my friendship, that's the best shit. That's the most valuable thing I can offer you.
Well,
I guarantee you.
I'm glad you gave it to me a long time
ago. Oh, my God. Give me a hug.
Thank you, man.